Good morning, everyone. How you doing? You guys all waking up? We're going to talk about the post-AI world. And part of the reason we're talking about that is because we believe that AI is going to be everywhere. Now, let's take a step back. The internet age is ended, and we're beginning the AI age. And with about a year of demarcation, we can tell that that's happening. So all the stuff around IoT or 5G or cloud or digital is really reflective of that internet age. Right? There was no fourth industrial revolution. Don't buy that. This is the next revolution, which is what's happening on the AI side. And that's going to shift everything we do. Now, I want to ask how many people here worked on a POC in AI last year? Raise your hands. How many people have converted that AI POC into something useful? Very, very good. This is a good audience. Because last year, every boardroom went nuts saying, we need to do a POC in AI. This year, every boardroom stole budgets to pay for AI. They stole your cybersecurity budget. They stole your sales budget. They stole your operations budget. And then, of course, we think that going forward, this is going to be something that's within every part of the budget and embedded everywhere. Now, why is this important? Well, all the data that we're trying to get to at the moment has been taken off the internet. It's been scraped. It's been taken away. There is no good publicly available information now on the internet, other than a credit card offer, maybe Taylor Swift, and maybe NVIDIA SEL. So we're about to enter an age of internet darkness. And these dark ages of the internet is happening because there's no new information or insight that's going to be available. So we think the answer is going to be data collectives that are happening at industry value chains. Retail, manufacturing, distribution is a value chain. And inside it, suppliers and partners are going to share information. Demand signals, pricing, availability, labor numbers, and that information and insight is going to provide what you need to get there. Now, why is that important? Because LLMs at this point are maybe accurate. We're getting to a level of accuracy of maybe 85%. Who thinks 85% accuracy is good for customer experience? Not bad, right? Now, the problem is customer experience, I can screw up a little bit. Who thinks 85% accuracy is good for supply chains? Raise your hands. It's not. It is literally, you're losing millions of dollars an hour, sometimes millions of dollars a minute if you're off. What about 85% accuracy in finance? Anybody? Anybody want to go to jail? And then, of course, 85% in healthcare is not going to be good enough. And so there's a battle for like the next 10%. And we're going to see that battle as people start to partner. And there's going to be a bigger battle for the last 5% so that we can get to that level of precision we need. That's actually what's happening in this market. And what we have to start thinking about is, in this age of AI, it's very different than the age of the internet. In the internet, it was open. It was decentralized. There were lots of winners, and everything was cheaper. Now let's go through AI. It is closed, it is centralized, it is more expensive, and there are only a few winners. This is a very, very different design point. And I think what we have to do is fix that. What I'm telling you is we have to break that and move from what we're having right now, which is centralized scarcity, to decentralized abundance. Otherwise, we will be controlled by AI instead of controlling AI. And that's the shift that we're in at the moment. Now, the goal here is really simple. We're not trying to have more AI for AI's sake. That doesn't do anybody any good. What we really want to is compete for a concept we call decision velocity. Machines make decisions 10,000 times per second. We can make snap decisions, but how quickly can you get decisions through your management committee? Who says 1 week? Raise your hands. Anybody have a month? A quarter? A year? Maybe never? Humans are really slow at making decisions. And so when we ramp up the clock speed for decision making, those companies who can make faster, more precise decisions are the ones who are going to win. And that's really what we're trying to use AI for, right? How do we accelerate that decision velocity? And that's going to be important because the value of your company is going to be sitting inside the business graph, inside the information insights collected over a period of time. That's where the value is going to be created. That's where the value is going to be maintained. And actually, we think valuations of companies are going to be built on that information and insight that you have. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And so we're always worried about AI, and we always think about, how do we automate, right? And whatever process you're going to be in, procure to pay, hire to retire, order to cash, campaign to lead, we're asking these 4 questions. Where do you fully intelligently automate? And that happens today. Stock trades are done automatically. Now, of course, we have trading curves when things go down, but we also have so many things that are happening in automated decisions. The next step is a question where when do we actually augment the machine with a human? We don't want issues to happen. We want to remove false positives, false negatives. We want the ability to actually get to higher levels of precision, so we have to learn. And then the third question you ask is, where do I augment the human with the machine so we can actually accelerate things? And once you have that in place, the question then is, where do you insert a human? So the question we have in AI is really not about where we automate, it's about when and where do we insert a human? Because that's ultimately going to be the question. We know we're going to automate. The question is, when do you need human judgment? When do you need a human in the loop? And that's going to dictate how we get there. Now, in every one of these transactions, we start by learning and then by understanding so that we can then use that to make recommendations. We take decision upon acting, and then we refine that over time. That's the loop and the cycle that we're doing in every one of these processes, and that's what we want to build to. Now, we started out by saying, hey, AI is great, it's going to augment what we do. That's level 1. Level 2 was, how do we actually accelerate that? And you're not going to get real value until you get to automation. That stage 3 is the part where you start to see the benefits of where AI is going to come to bear. Now, what we're going to hear a ton about is agentic AI for the next 12 to 18 months. There's a lot of ramping up on the marketing behind that. And ultimately, at some point, we're going to get advisors. These agents, these advisors, are going to help you make faster decisions. And in some cases, you might replace FTEs. In other cases, you're going to add. I was interviewing the CEO of Sam's Club, which is a Walmart company. It's the warehouse division of Walmart. And I asked, what are you doing with AI? They have removed 100 million tasks using AI and automation. Now, the next question was, what does that mean for your workforce? Now, I was expecting a different answer. I was expecting him to say, we're going to cut 10% of our workforce. This is Walmart, of course. But it turned out that he said, no, we added 3% more people on the front lines because now we have time to actually engage with other humans. So it's a very, very interesting approach that's actually emerging here. Now, why do I say this? Because our goal here, as I said earlier, was not more AI. It's about decision automation. It's about decision intelligence. We want to take all the information and insight we have, abstract it out of our transactional systems like SAP or Salesforce or Workday and Oracle, and then we want to take all our business processes and journeys and be able to automate them and orchestrate them, and then from there we want to deliver on amazing user experiences, whether it's physical or digital. Once we do that, the goal is to build that abstraction layer and then go do something with it. That is the battle for the next decade. How do we do that, and how do we get rid of those transactional systems that are not adding any value? And it's also the battle for those transactional systems not adding value to say, oh, I've got AI. And you're going to have to make that decision in every organization. So that leads us to where we're headed. It's this post-AI world. And in this post-AI world, we've seen that these companies and the valuations are going to be inside those insights. I give you an example. I looked at Uber's last earnings, and because they had a really good data strategy for 10 years, they were able to deliver on dynamic pricing. They were able to do ride batching, which means you could put more riders into a trip. You could make more per trip for every driver. And that's actually how they boosted their revenues in that past quarter. That valuation on Uber now is based on the data they have. Their optimization for supply chain logistics for routes is better than anyone else in the world. And that's really where the valuation sits in Uber, not in anything else. And the fact that Uber only targets corporates and affluent riders. That data is worth so much more, and it can be used to create other things, which we'll talk about in a bit. The other piece is, I'm sorry this is hard to read, is the bizarre theory, is that they're going to be marketplaces for information and insight. The data inside your organization is going to be traded. It's going to be built, it's going to be reused, it's going to be reconstituted, and you're going to create products against that. And I'll show you a little bit, and I'll show you a bit in a little bit later. And so, while everybody has now made this a boardroom issue, we now need to figure out what to do with it. And part of this is that shift.
The good news is we've been working on digital and digital transformation for some time, and so we now have the data and the insights. That digital and physical world are now coming together more quickly than ever, which means that we can actually find some kind of advantage here. Now, the advantage isn't necessarily all with FTEs. Everybody's trying to say, hey, if I use AI, I can get rid of 100 people. It's not true. You might be able to get rid of 12, 20 out of that percentage. It's a much lower number than people are realizing. And those people that have cut costs based on what they can do with AI have seen it in some areas, like code generation and software development, but have not seen it in other areas that require a lot more human decisions. Because human decisioning is complex. Much of the decisions we make do not fit within mathematical or algorithmic approach. The mathematics and algorithmic approach aren't always there. It actually hasn't been captured. And so we have to take that into account. So while your people are building zero FTE roadmaps, they might not necessarily get there. But our goal is to build precision decisions over time. How do we capture the information, the insight? How do we build against that so that we succeed? And we actually believe billions are about to be wasted because companies that are doing AI that don't have a data strategy are not going to succeed. And that data strategy is more important than ever. You want to make sure you're bringing that information, you're bringing those insights, and you're lining it up. And if you don't have enough data, we enter into a problem where the users don't trust AI. You don't trust AI internally, and we end up with this scenario. We do not want hallucinations. We also don't want hallucinations because many times we're trying to solve a deterministic problem with a probabilistic model. Are you okay with 1 + 1 equaling 2 99.8% of the time? I'm not, right? And so the use case and what we're trying to solve has to be applied properly. Otherwise, we're spending all this time on retrieval augmentation and generation for RAG to actually figure out how to handle that. We're worried about model drifts, worried about half-lives of data, and then we're not completely trusting our AI. And so if we can get past that, then we're actually going to build something bigger. And so the frame shift ahead with AI is so different. It is really about 5 questions. When and where do you insert the human? And that's going to be more important than ever. The second one is, can we actually operate at machine scale with humans? Machines are operating this fast. We're actually down here. And that's why we have trading curves when stock markets go nuts, because we want the algorithms to calm down. We want the trades to calm down to do a reset. We will have to continue to build those types of breaks into systems, or else we won't be able to catch up. And then the other question is, do we have enough data, but will you partner with other folks for data? In this case, the last centimeter, or meter if you want, or kilometer. But the point being is, how do we get to that last piece of information and insight to get to that level of precision? But the more important one is the last question. Who do you sue when something goes wrong? Now, let me give you an example. I'm on a plane, San Francisco to New York. It's an automated plane in 2050. The plane is going out, it gets down near Pennsylvania, and it hits a bird strike. What do? Right? There's 10 million people on the ground, there's 300 people on the plane. What decision is being made? Well, what does the AI do? How many people think the AI says, would you like to renew your insurance policy? How many people think the AI says, would you like to get rid of your insurance policy and revoke it? Who says renew? Raise your hands. Who says revoke? You guys don't want to make this answer, do you? Well, there's a 0.001% chance you can land a plane on the Hudson and it will float. Some guy named Captain Scully did in the 2000s. And so you could renew your policy for a certain amount and go for it, or you can revoke it and say, hey, I don't care because I want to live. That's going to be the challenge we have. In any publicly facing item that you have, or experience, or exposure, or product, you're going to have to answer that question. Who do you sue when something goes wrong? Okay, now, that takes us to a different dimension. The question is, we know this is going to happen. We know we're going to live in this AI area. What types of businesses can we create? And so this is a preview on a book that I need to write, which I continue to tell Mikhail I will write, which I have not written yet. But the point is, we believe there's 5 new types of businesses that are being built. And what I want you to think in the back of your mind is to how you're going to do this. So the first one we have is what we call unique data sets. And what I want you to think about is what information and insight you have that nobody else has. Sometime back, a company called Topgolf. I don't know if you guys have gone there. It's a bowling alley for golfers. Have you ever been to Topgolf? Anyone? It's kind of fun. You play golf. It's all digitally tracked. You hit the ball, tells you where it's going to land. Everybody can participate. You can compete with other teams in other cities, right? So it's really a bowling alley for golfers. Sometime back, Callaway, which is the world's largest golf manufacturer, decided to buy Topgolf. And you read the press release. And the press release says, we're doing it for revenue per square feet. We want to younger golfers. We have a way to distribute our golf clubs. Looks like a storm regular press release. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, this is a really stupid idea. Like, why would you do this? And then it dawns on me. And so I call my friend over at Topgolf, and I say, I know why you guys bought them. He's like, no. And he reads back the press release to me, and I'm like, oh, this is stupid. That doesn't make any sense. So what can Callaway do with Topgolf? Anybody want to take a guess?
Data.
It is data, but what data do they have? They have more data on shitty golf swings than anyone else. And what can you do with shitty golf swing data? You can make a better golf ball, and you can make a better golf club. So I tell my friend, this is why you bought them, and he hangs up, and I haven't talked to him in a while. Because apparently that's why they did it, and now they've sold it back, right? They've got the data, they don't need the company anymore. So this is very, very interesting. So what type of data inside your organization do you have that nobody else can get access to? These are unique data sets. Or who do you need to acquire to get data that you didn't have before? I want you to think about that, because that is the most important piece. Because it is a war for data, because we're about to enter that era of data scarcity. The second one is really the basis of my last book, which is about networks and data. Those who have the biggest networks and have captured the data are the ones that are going to win in the digital world, which also means they're going to win in the AI world. Microsoft is not a sponsor of this, right? I just want to make sure. Okay, good. Okay. Tell me, what business is LinkedIn in? How many people say LinkedIn is an HR tool? Raise your hands. How many people think LinkedIn is a sales tool? Raise your hands. Yeah. How many people think LinkedIn is a social network? Raise your hands. Okay. How many users are in LinkedIn? Someone give me a number. Feel free to yell out. 200 million. Okay, higher. Anyone else? 1 billion, yes. It's 1.2 billion users on LinkedIn. Did you know that? Now, how many people in this room would be willing to pay $10 to verify your employment and your educational expertise and your skills? Would you pay $10 to do that? So people know you really went there? Because LinkedIn, people make up stuff all the time, right? We don't know if people really have real skills on LinkedIn. Would you pay 10 euros to do this? Most people would. Okay. I believe 300 million people would do that. That's $3 billion of revenue. But I actually believe 300 million people will also pay 100 euros for unlimited validation per year and a membership. So here we have $33 billion of opportunity on network plus data, and these guys have no clue what they're doing. They're like, we're social media, we're news, we're HR, we're a sales company. 33 billion is sitting in front of them. I need 100 developers and 100 BD people, and I could do that in 2 years and drive 33 billion in revenue. They're sitting on the network and the data. So what's your biggest number? How many connections do you have? How many devices do you have? How many members do you have? That's your number. And what data do you have there that people are willing to pay for? What are you willing to trade? Network plus data is the second model that's important in this post-AI world. Now, the third one is fun. It's longitudinal data. Everybody has this. You might not necessarily be capturing it at the right level. There's a company called Prevent. And Prevent is awesome because at birth, what happens, you normally get an APGAR score, you get a hearing test, but they don't ever test for vision. They kind of like, oh, can you see, can you not? And what these guys do is they scan the retina of a baby at birth. And they can use that to identify any potential danger. Now, in the US, there's 2.6 million live births. $400 is what you typically pay for a test. So it's $1 billion opportunity, and it's not bad. But 3 to 5% of those scans reveal an anomaly that has to be done with corrective surgery. And insurance companies are willing to pay money to identify those individuals to do the preventative surgery before it happens. And there's a referral avenue there that people are willing to pay for the referrals. That business is $10 billion per year. But even better than that, pharmaceutical companies are willing to pay 700 to 1,000 euros per record per year to track certain disease states for their clinical trials. And that number is even bigger than the $10 billion. But the cool thing, when you turn 41, your eye doctor will call you up and say, I think you need glasses, come on in. That's where this is. Longitudinal data is very powerful. So what kind of information and insights do you have? What do you actually have that has a span of data and information and insight that's going to be valuable over time? And we actually think this is just as a valuable opportunity as the first three. Are you guys ready for the next one? Derived data advantage. Now, in derived data advantage is what you're going to do is take the data insights you have and actually start to monetize it by adding additional information or actually selling that information to be used. Anybody here have a Tesla? Okay, I see some hands, not a lot. If you drive a Tesla, there's this thing called autopilot. It sometimes crashes. No, I'm just kidding. There's this thing called autopilot, and for the most part, it drives pretty well. If you follow autopilot and you're a good driver, you get invited to be part of Tesla insurance. When you buy a Tesla, you give away all your data rights, right? They own everything. And what they've been able to do is to track information and insight that is so valuable that they can now offer Tesla auto insurance at half the cost of everyone else. They're not the insurer. They've provided the data to the underwriters, and the underwriters have now actually determined that these drivers are probably more safe than any other drivers, given their driving records. And by doing that, they've actually created what we call a derived data advantage. Make sense? Now, the last one gets very interesting. And we actually think new classes of data are about to be created. And so, sometime back, we went to a company that asked us to present to their board about what they could do with data or NFTs and digital and get into the space. And we had an interesting idea. This is a company that insures your jewelry. You buy a 10,000 euro diamond bracelet, and you pay a certain percentage, maybe 1% to 2%, to insure the jewelry. And they insure everybody. They do it at the point of sale. And so we tried to figure out how you would actually do this. And we said, here's an interesting model. This is a multi-sided marketplace for data. Buyers and insurers pay a premium to be able to do this. That's the first example. That's the business they have been doing for 147 years. But they haven't been in all the other businesses. Insurers and sellers want to understand liquidity and what is actually worth in that. What is the portfolio worth? And they're willing to pay for that information and insight and even trade against that. And sellers and data markets want to know what it's worth. And so there's a market for valuation services and certified items of certified diamond, certified gold. This is actually approved. And then there's another market that says, how do I price something where people are willing to pay for pricing? It's a multi-sided market on data. Now, what you need to think about is, where is your multi-sided market on data? Because once you do that, you can create different types of monetization models more than the insurance premium. In fact, there's a resale market assurance that says, if you buy this diamond and you pay us another $20 per month or 20 euros per month, we will guarantee that that price stays that number. So if you resell it, we will buy back at that price. Pretty cool offer. There's a second market, which is cash value guarantee, is your value for whatever you purchase will never fall below this number. And they're willing to insure it and back it up over a period of time. And then, of course, there's a whole market for independent valuation services. In the US, we have a thing called Kelley Blue Book, Auto Trader. They can tell you what the cost of a vehicle should be worth. And of course, we'll do the same thing with jewelry. But the really cool markets are the next two. Fractional ownership means that 5 of us can get together and buy a piece of jewelry and be able to have ownership stakes in there using NFTs, of course, or other types of digital assets. But even cooler than that is credit services from assets under insurance. So you know how we can actually take all the mortgages in the world, collateralize them, and resell them? I can do that with $1 trillion worth of gold and diamonds. And you can actually get there, and every piece of jewelry that you've now valued is part of something you could collateralize and resell and actually create a brand new market and brand new asset class. And all the jewelry in the world suddenly becomes tradable and resold. Now, at that point, I got thrown out of the boardroom because it is just wild. But what I'm trying to show you is where data actually has value in marketplaces, and this is what we can build over time. All right, real quick, I'm running out of time. You've seen what actually happens on the AI front. You've seen that it's all going to be in this age of AI. You now have digital business models and post-AI data models that you can actually put to piece. Let's talk quickly about ethics. Real quick, trolley car problem. Everybody knows this. Two autonomous vehicles get into a crash. Who gets to live? Who says the lawyer? Who says the politician? Who says the gymnast? Who says the kid? Right? Who says the single mother of three? Hard problem. The answer is very simple. You send the cars out, you leave the people at home. Simple question. I'll do this one before we get to Q&A. I'm going to offend three types of people. People from Canada, people from Eastern Europe, and people from Asia. You guys ready? Autonomous vehicle hits a dog in Canada. The car flags down a person, has the person put the dog into the back, rushes to the veterinary hospital, contacts the owner, pays for the bill, checks in 2 months later, profusely apologizes. Very Canadian, right? Yeah, pretty good. Autonomous vehicle runs over a dog in Eastern Europe. What dog runs it over 2 or 3 more times and leaves? Autonomous vehicle runs over a dog in China. Cost-benefit analysis, $5,000 fine if the dog is dead, $50,000 worth of medical bills. What's for dinner? It's very hard to get the ethics. But we can trust on 5 things. Make sure things are transparent. Make sure it's explainable. Make sure we can reverse a decision. More importantly, train it with humans till you get to a point you're actually happy. And last piece is make sure you start the process with a human and end the process with a human. Thank you very much.